Hi, I'm Dustin from XAG.
Hey, I'm Dustin. I'm the UAV Chief Pilot for Nutrien and XAG Solutions out of Loveland, Colorado.
Thank you for taking the interview, Dustin.
Thank you.
So as a user, how did you start with the drone business?
So we started with the drones about 2.5, 3 years ago now. We started with a research project where we were looking at what drones were available, what the efficiencies, the efficacy of the drones were. We were looking at if the drones were actually viable for commercial operations and what those kind of operations would look like. After about 2 years of research, we were pretty heavily involved with Helio at the time. I'm working with Helio pretty heavily throughout that 2 years. We saw that there was a lot of viability in actually going into a true commercial operation. We saw that the viability of actually getting out there and conducting operations, conducting applications with an aircraft like a drone is actually 100% feasible and ready to be actually used at this time in our real world environment. Unfortunately, at the time, we were flying Helio. There were a lot of benefits to flying Helio, but there were also some negatives with flying Helio. And we started looking around at the different drones that were available at that time. This was about 1.5 years or so ago. During that adventure, we went over to the DJI, obviously. We went to the XAG, and we also looked at Guardian and a few other companies that were out there. What we came to find out was the XAG was the most efficient, was the most effective, and was the best as far as a commercial operations standpoint. The rigidity of the aircraft, the capabilities of the aircraft, the capabilities of the batteries, the fast charging of the batteries, everything about the XAG aircraft just really dialed it in to be a true commercial operation capable aircraft, where the other units all kind of failed in that aspect, which is what really drove us towards that XAG lineup and why we're currently sitting here with y'all talking to y'all about it all.
Thank you. Really appreciate all the jobs you've done. And I heard you had a epic personal journey about drones and piloting stuff. Yeah.
So I started off really young in the military actually. It was about 2007, 2008 time frame when I started flying. From there I actually ended up in South Africa for a while working as an anti-poacher, where we were actually using drone operations to track rhinos, look for poachers, do stuff like that. Following that, I ended up at Colorado State University, where I was doing undergraduate research with UAV applications and looking at the different things that we could do with UAVs, specifically really working with the imagery side of the house at that point. From there, I went into my master's in restoration ecology at CSU, and during that tenure, I was working with InView on working with different applications. We were looking at Rejuver applications, plain view applications, bare ground work, just kind of the whole spectrum of different things that we could possibly do with the aircraft. So, been around it for about almost closing in on 20 years now. It's kind of crazy.
Wow, 20 years. That's a pioneer of drone spray and drone technology. And so you had 20 years of experience in piloting aircraft and drones. When did you make the decision to get into the drone? I mean, switching from the traditional spray and...
So that was actually a safety aspect. We had one of my really good friends was actually diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and and unfortunately it pulled him out of the game. He was probably one of the best applicators I've worked with. He had a lot of years, about 22 years of experience. So losing someone with 22 years of experience because of a issue like that, because of safety, was a big concern of ours, so we started looking at the aircraft. We started looking at how the safety aspects of them, getting us out of that application environment, not having to be right there when you're mixing, not having to sit there and take hits from chemistry on a regular basis. The safety of these operations is just unbelievable and really drove us towards this technology, and that's what kind of pushed us towards this direction at this point.
And is it still easy to find people to pilot aircraft?
That's probably one of the easiest things in the world. It's kind of an interesting aspect. We did a mock job interview, job post, where we actually just put up a post. We put it up for about 24 hours. In 24 hours in my local area, we had 77 applicants.
Wow.
I mean, we were literally going to be picking out which pilot we actually wanted to interview, who we wanted to come on board, so we could actually look at kind of the background of them and get more of an ag or kind of chemical background coming out of it versus just a drone pilot too.
Wow. And you mentioned about safety. How about efficiency?
Efficiency, well, I mean, I don't really know many other ground rigs that can do 40 acres an hour, and that's all it really boils down to. You start thinking about it from like the IVM perspective, most of those rigs are doing about 3 to 6 acres an hour. So when you start thinking about 3 to 6 acres an hour, you're not being very efficient in a day. I mean, that's just all there is to it. 30 acres in a day, we're doing that in an hour with the drones. I mean, we can literally just put one of them up in there and we can knock 40 to 50 acres out in an hour. The efficiency alone just crushes what we were able to do on the ground aspect. When you start thinking about it from like conventional aircraft, well, a lot of times conventional aircraft can't get into a lot of these spaces that we're doing these applications in. So once again, this is where that efficiency of this aircraft can get in there and actually do what it's supposed to do and really help us out. So it's a beautiful aspect on that.
And how about efficacy? Have you done some tests?
We have done a lot of efficacy trials, actually. The efficacy of these is just as comparable to all modern equipment. It really depends on what chemistry you're using. Contact chemistry, we think 3 GPa works very well for us. Systemic chemistry, 2 GPa. Even bare ground brush control, though, we're doing that at 5 gallons per acre, and that's still stuff that is literally more efficient than we've ever done in any other form of application. We did a honey locust application the other week, and it was about a half-acre application. We did it at 2 GPa because we were trying to trial it out and see how it did. It took us about 2.5 minutes to complete that half acre. If you would have gone with a backpack and done that half acre, you would have been there all day. Legitimately been there all day with a backpack sprayer trying to complete that application that we completed in 2.5 minutes. And we had 100% kill through that area.
And so when you start with being with the Nutrien?
I started with Nutrien about 2.5 years ago, and I started off as a sales rep, and during that time we were also working with the UAVs and starting to look at the UAV research. So that was really one of the big reasons that Nutrien pulled me into the company.
What's the point of view from Nutrien to work with the drone industry? What's the vision of that?
We are fully integrating drones into our program. We do imagery analysis, we do mine site inspections. We have a full drone program across North America covering Canada, the whole 9 yards. We're also looking at expanding our drone operations into Australia and even into our European area too as well. So we're looking at basically a worldwide drone application program, and this will be the first company that can ever truly develop that program. So we're pretty excited about doing that, and we're pretty excited about the future of drones in agriculture. It's not a matter of if this technology is going to be here, it's a matter of how long is this technology going to be here, and that's going to be here for a very long time at this point.
Great. And you mentioned about the future. What's your expectation on the drone development?
Well, this year alone, we're looking at least 5 times over what we were doing last year. So we are looking at an expansion this year of over 5 times of what we were doing this last year. For 2025, we're projecting almost 10 times that. So it really just depends on, kind of how our projections play out. But realistically, the expansion on this is just crazy. This is one of the fastest growing industries. This is one of the fastest growing sides of the agriculture market. And it's definitely one of the best sides of the agriculture market to play in at this point.
And you've been experienced with our previous couple of generations of XAG drones, right? How do you find out the development of XAG, and is that aligned with your vision?
Yes, it's actually kind of an interesting aspect because you talked yesterday about kind of what y'all's kind of ethos is for XAG, and one of the big reasons we chose XAG is because we align a lot with y'all's ethos. If you look at kind of y'all's mission of going out and enhancing agriculture across the world, really building that agriculture up across the world, that's exactly what we're trying to do as Nutrien. So when it comes to a teammate, we couldn't have asked for a better teammate than XAG.
Thank you. Really appreciate your agreement on that, because we also started with our spraying service team, and we really understand the headaches of farmers and service providers. And for the next step, I think we will try to integrate the whole smart agriculture solutions to provide better services to our farms, right? And what's your thoughts on that?
So we actually were just coming aware of all your smart farms capability. We are going to be looking at integrating your entire smart farm capability on one of our farms over this year, and then hopefully by the end of 2025 we'll have all of our farms transferred into XAG smart farms, and that's kind of the end goal there.
Great, look forward.